Hello, I have an exciting video for y'all. Okay, I'm just gonna put the glasses on. It is evening, but just gonna stick to the bit. So I have an exciting video for you, or at least I'm excited. Well, the topic is a little bit dark, a little bit spooky, because as you see from the title, it's gonna be Mongolian urban legends, ghost stories, and folk tales. I try to see how many of it I can fit in this video, but there might be a part 2. First of all, I want to disclaim that no matter what you believe in, this is stories I heard from people. This is part of our oral tradition and tradition of things I've seen people do or I've heard people do. So I don't want no disrespect about my beliefs or about our people's beliefs, okay? I think this is just interesting to document and see how, I don't know if there's any similar stories in other cultures as well. I think it's, Halloween is coming, my birthday's around this time, and it's just an exciting topic that I want to document. Exciting in the sense that I'm happy that I get to do this, and not the topic itself or the stories itself can be, not the brightest of things. It's not something you listen on a sunny day maybe. Or if you're into, true crime and stuff, maybe this is your cup of tea. I think I need to start with some basic facts. Mongolia is the least densely populated country in the world. Our physical landscape is really big, and it only has around 3 million people. At 1.5, half of them live in the city, so the rest of the country is pretty much empty. And I feel like that is also one of the reasons why you can get stories out from the open field. You don't meet a lot of people, walking humans at night out in the Gobi Desert. Maybe you meet souls or spirits. So I'm here to tell stories about this and what I've heard. For example, this is something I see everyone do, and especially people with new babies still do. When we take a baby outside at night in the dark, sometimes the baby needs some air, or some parents have stuff to do in the evening. We put black soot in the middle of the nose of the baby. So belief is that if you take a baby out at night, bad spirits are gonna take the baby away, in the sense that they're gonna steal the baby's spirit. So in order to disguise the baby, we put black soot in the middle of the nose, so it disguises the face of a human baby and it looks like an animal baby. I'm not sure which animal it's supposed to resemble. I've heard it might be a skunk, but I might be wrong with this. But the main point is to disguise the human baby as something else so bad spirits don't take the soul away. Another reasoning I can't think for this is because, we live in a very harsh climate. Child mortality rates are really high traditionally before modern technology, and I think we believe that if a child dies prematurely, maybe the bad spirits took the soul away or took the spirit away. So prevent this, we have a lot of superstitions that we follow. And I mean, when I was little, I also did that as well. I think until at least I was 4 or something. It depends on the family, I think it depends on the people, but I feel like even the most secular families or non-religious families still do this with their baby. I think it's just, I don't know, for me it's just a sign of, you care for the baby, and it's almost sweet. Another thing related to protecting the child or the spirit of a baby or a child is we would come up with a lot of nicknames for kids. For example, Orlana or Tsagana. I think there are other ones, but these are the ones I've heard, especially Orlana, I've heard a lot. It means little red, or the red one, or red, or something red. That also counts as a way to disguise the baby, because when a newborn is introduced to a family, and if a family is uttering a new name, the bad spirits, the devil, can hear that, oh, there's a new name introduced in the family. That means there's a fresh human, there's a vulnerable new soul in there. So in order for families to protect their baby, they came up with nicknames like the little red one. And I think there are special meanings with the color of red and white, but I'm not quite an expert on this. But I think maybe these might be colors that intimidate the bad spirits or something. So It's basically to like redirect the baby's attention away from unwanted souls and spirits. We even have names like Tirbish in Bish, and it literally means not this, not that. That means when we're calling a new baby, we refer to them as not this, not bad, not that. That literally says, yeah, Tirbish in Bish. So that literally redirects the energy and attention away from the baby to protect its soul and, well, just to like protect it from unnecessary attention. I think this can, if you're maybe from like the Arabic diaspora, it can be kind of related to the evil eye. You know, you just don't, you have to like reflect the bad energy away or like deflect it. I would categorize those as like more superstition. So we also have things, okay, going back to the open empty fields, the open steppe, the quiet mountains, forests, lake, where there's sometimes you don't see people in the nearest 100-kilometer radius, not at all. We have something that's called gudel, which literally means like runners. The easiest way I can explain it is basically these are like free roaming open spirits. They can be like well-intended, ill-intended, but usually I've heard it in context with more like ill intention, or it can be like kind of coincidence. For example, when you go on a long camping trip or a traveling trip, we don't have like fast high speed like European standard highways. Of course, we have like asphalt road. It is kind of our highway, but it's not up to like I don't know, it's not the kind of highway you're imagining if you're from like the US or Europe or something. We talk a lot about gudel, or like these free roam running spirits on like traffic. And we say, for example, if you get into like an accident, or if let's say you leave the city, okay? It's 1.5 million people and the rest of the country is like empty. It's bigger than Texas. You're driving at night, you're trying to get to like a long destination that's far away. And especially if you're driving at night and if you see something on the road, you do not stop. Like under any circumstances, even if it looks like an innocent deer or an animal, like you do not stop, especially at night. Because we say those are those spirits that like play with humans. Oh my god, like I'm talking about this like at night in my room. I'm feeling like a little bit jittery. Like I don't know, I didn't particularly grow up in like a religious context, but it's still, these are stories and beliefs I grew up with, so I don't think I can like easily unlearn them and then they still affect me, you know. But I do want to like document this, and I don't claim any like bad energy towards me. I just want to put this out there. At the same time, I've heard a lot of like traffic accidents being reasoned with this. Again, I don't know if this depends on ill intention or you just happen to kind of run into a running spirit on the road out in the country, because out in the nature, it's not only humans that are out there. We're sharing it with animals, spirits, creatures, like the great nature, you know. Our Mongolian like kind of traditional beliefs and religion in a sense is, yeah, very spiritual, as you hear. And what's it called, animosity. I think the smart people know what I'm talking about when we believe like, you know, like each river, each mountain, each like natural object kind of has its own spirit as well. But this is still separate from gudel. I think in other cultures maybe it can be compared to a jinn. Even saying the word jinn is a little like heavy for me. Especially we have a lot of like junctions or like crossroads out in the countryside where kind of they're famous for always having like traffic accidents, even if there's like only 1 or 2 cars crossing it, or even if there's no other cars to bump or run into. There are like famous roads out in the countryside, out in the like out, I don't know, in Australia if you call it the outback, like the bush, you know, where just kind of bad things happen or like humans just get played. People definitely like take caution. Like if you hear these urban legends or folk tales from the people who live in the vicinity, from the villages, as a Mongolian traveler or person visiting another province or something, we will listen to the locals. Like it does not matter if you believe in it or not. You have to listen. Like we don't play with this shit. Like we don't mess with this. And yeah, I mean, if you're from other cultures and if you have like similar stories, I'm like really open to hear about this, and I'll leave them in the comments. Growing up in my elementary school, we had a Mongolian teacher for like 1 year or like a few months, and she was from South Gobi, or there's a province called Umnugovi, which literally translates as, yeah, South Gobi. And we have the desert in the southern part of Mongolia. They're very famous for their ghost stories. And for us, it makes sense because it's literally the desert. You cannot prove or know what's really out there. And a lot of like urban legends or like folk tales come from that. And I've always been fascinated with them as well. That teacher used to like, sometimes the Mongolian class would just turn into like story times. And I think these were still like essential folktale, oral traditional literature classes in Mongolian culture. And I'm really happy that I had those. So she had a lot of stories. She would say when you play with bones, with like animal carcasses out when you're in the countryside, no matter like how you play with them and like how you reposition them and like puzzle them together, when you come back to the same spot tomorrow, the bones will always be back in the places you found them. Like, she told me, especially like, you know, she was a female teacher, and when she was like playing with boys, the boys had like those metal wires or like maybe like fishing rope or like hard metal ropes, and they would just like use the skull of a goat or some kind of animal carcass they find and use the bones and like put the femur and everything together in like a little tower or something. They would like twist everything hard with metal wires, and the girls would try to like play to untangle them, and of course the boys with like more strength or something, they like definitely like tighten it so tight, the girls would say, or like even other kids wouldn't be able to reopen them again, and they would like leave that bone like after they're like done playing, they would just like leave it like all tight and stuff. But they said without fail, every time they came back the next morning to play with the bones again, it would be like all dismantled and the bones would be in the places you found them. You know, these are stuff you hear, especially like, yeah, out in the countryside. No, I'm not here to deny or anything, I'm just here to share. From other kids actually growing up, every time they travel to like South Gobi in that general direction, I would always hear some stuff. There would be like ghosts on motorcycles, you know, it evolves. And or I would also try to explain, maybe they would see the running spirits, because it's also a lot of like these on the road, and kids always used to tell me like they would see like, you know, in the distance, maybe they see like another man with a motorcycle who's like somehow keeping up to speed with their car, and then sometimes it looks like the guy on the motorcycle is just like coming closer together, and then it would just like vanish as it like comes close. The thing is, I've heard this story from completely different social groups, from completely different people who visited South Gobi. So you know, I'll be hearing stuff, I'll be collecting this. And again, I'm telling you, these 3 different people, like I know them from completely different social groups, completely different age groups, and you would kind of hear phenomena like this. Another very famous and common one is if you're like riding in the back of a car. I also heard a lot of this from like young boys, because a lot of like young teenage boys would work in like construction in the countryside, like carrying brick, wood, like construction material from like one destination to another. But it's a lot of ground to cover. It's usually hundreds of kilometers. You know, the villages are sometimes consisting of like only like 14 people, but they still gotta eat. Project still needs to be like delivered. So like these delivery drivers have the craziest stories. Yeah, growing up, like when I was a teenager, like those boys, and they're like 16 to 18 when they're like starting to work heavy, like hard labor. Again, from different people I've heard, when they're riding on the back of a porter, okay, I try to put an image of a porter. It's a typical like a carrying car, just like, you know, there's no space in front, so they just like ride in the back with the things and products and the construction material. They would say like they would see camels like kind of run next to them, like at the same speed as the car, and they'd always be surprised. And I'm not talking about like it looks like something is not moving because it's so far away, you know. They would say like it'd be like kind of running next to the car, but the rule is like don't interact with the spirit, or like don't interact with the animal. And then even if you think the camel is gone, if you look back, like the camel or something is like running next to the car behind them. Oh my god, like actually imagining is like kind of scary, but this is something people see, and I don't know, maybe it's a mirage, maybe it's something, but again, I'm just the messenger and I just want to share these stories. This is something I heard from a classmate, and she's one of like more like scientific, like pretty literal and like natural science people I know. I don't think she was like the type of girl who would like make up stories. You know those kids who always like make up stories, stuff like I have a crocodile at home as a pet or something? No, like she was one of those people who would like, I trusted, and she would not like make up something like this for attention. Okay, so and I also believe it because it happened in a region called Selenge. And I also hear a lot of different stories from Selenge. It's a very famous spot to visit. It's touristy. There's the Selenge River as well. There are also a lot of like famous tales and urban legends. It's just I feel disconnected from it a little bit because I haven't been home in years, so but I'm always open for stories. And if you know, if you're from Selenge or if your family is from like Selenge, if you have like stories, please share with me. I'd be happy to hear. So this is also a common thing drivers and people see when they're out in the country. It's lights. Especially in Mongolian we say like Tolstin Tal. Oh wait, sorry. There are like famous fields or like areas where you get played by lights. So the belief is that it's usually spirits playing with people and they want us to kind of get lost and like wander. And again, you don't really know the intention, but again, as a human, you don't really want to mess with that. On the way to Selenge, I heard this from more than one person. Like there's a famous area or like an open step place where this happens a lot, where you get played by lights. She said they had, you know, her dad, she trusts her dad. Her dad has like driven in that area many times, but they now live in the city. But because the family like lives in that area, they visit every summer or something, right? A lot of Mongolians actually live in this dynamic, by the way, for the people who live in the city as well. Everyone still has like relatives in the countryside that they visit. She told me they knew where the location was, they knew where the village was, they knew where like the yurt, or like they even have a house, like the relatives. And they said, you know, the relatives will keep the lights on, so when they come closer, they will see. And they told me like one night they like were driving like almost there, you know, they're beyond hundreds of kilometers away from the city, almost 1,000 kilometers. You know, like Mongolia is big. Like sometimes you just need at least 1,000 kilometers covered. They were saying like they knew they were nearby the village. They knew they were nearby their like relative's home, and they saw light. But the more they drove towards the light kept like moving, or it just like never got closer. And it was already at night, like it's completely dark, so they can't really see anything. It's just like their car lights on, and they just kept driving towards the car. And they know, like she told me, like her dad was measuring the distance covered, so the distance was getting covered, but it, you know, it never got closer. Or like every time they thought, okay, we're in like a 10-kilometer radius, we're there, the lights would move, or you know, the lights would move, and you never like really get to your destination when you're driving at night and you follow lights. This is actually a really common thing drivers do not advise, because I've heard a reasoning saying that it might be spirits playing with you, because there's nothing else out in the open, and usually there's not even signal out there. So imagine like, and also we're actually one of the least like light polluted countries in the world because it's that empty, okay? Anyway, so she told me that night like they were like with 3 cars, so they all kind of got a little like spooked. So they were like, okay, we're just gonna cut the trip tonight, just let's all sleep in the car. Like they decided to not even like set camp or like get the tents out. They were like, no, this is, you know, I think the adults kind of knew maybe they're in some kind of trap or something, or they just didn't feel safe. So they were like, let's just like sleep in the car, like maybe like 3-4 more hours and wait for the sunrise. And then she told me they did that. They slept in the cars, and when they woke up, like, and then like looked outside of the car, like their relative's home, like the yurt was like, I don't know, like 15 steps away. Like they just woke up, and then like if you look through the car window, you could see the house is like right there. Like you can like get off the car and like walk by steps and get to them. This is the kind of thing I've heard from multiple different people on their visits to the countryside. And apparently when she told, you know, the relatives, the dad told to their like, I don't know, it was their like grandpa or something, some other relatives, and saying like, hey, that this happened to us last night, that's why we couldn't like reach you, so we had to wait for the morning. And then apparently the elder said, oh, you just got played by the lights, like you guys just got played by the landscape lights, like the spirit lights. So like for the locals, it's kind of so common that they just said, oh yeah, like how to say, don't really interact with it, but don't be stupid. So the tactic is to like just stop, wait for sunrise, and then drive. For them it was like so casual, like, oh yeah, you know, oh, is this just spirits playing with you? Type of vibe. No, the locals be really nonchalant about this. Like the stories they tell you, the spirits, the folktales they tell you, and they're like so casual about it. Oh yeah, like, but I think it's so beautiful because in a sense they coexist, or they really literally live with the spirits, you know. And I mean, I grew up in the city and I'm still distanced from that, but for me, like, besides like any urban legend or creepy story, for me, stories like these seem way more real to me. And my ancestors, the elders, people, we have respected this for thousands of years, and we never mess with the beyond, you know, and I try to keep it that way. Okay, I'll end it with one that still kind of haunts me to this day, because I've heard it from someone who is like the least fascinated about these things. Like they don't believe a smidgen of like on ghosts, or like this is the most like, you know, atheist, secular, like non-believing person I know, and I'm really close to them. Like they really believe in science, something concrete and real and logic. This is something that happened to them, and this is something they told me, and ever since then we just simply we don't know. We're just humans. We don't even know if there's aliens. We don't know what's there beyond. Okay, so I'm not here to like confirm or deny anything, but I'm just saying, like, trust me, this came from a very credible person who I've never expected who would tell me a story like this. And this person goes on a lot of these like expeditions, campings, leads camping groups, hiking groups, like, but anyway, so the story goes, they were close to getting to this village that they had to get to. It's called Asum when it's a village. Well, this is irrelevant anyway. And because it was like super rainy and stormy and muddy, they were like, they needed a little shelter. So they decided to go to a little, it was not a whole forest, but they saw like a bundle of trees, or kind of the start of a forest. So they decided to go in there for a little bit of like shelter and protection from the wind and rain. They go in there, they see an abandoned house, like not really a shack, but it was just a wooden thing, and it was like 5 cars, 5 families. There was like an elderly woman, he said, and there was a baby, and everyone else was like 30s, 40s. That night they were just like so cold, they just thought it was like dangerous to keep driving. They decided to like sleep in the house, the wooden like house, because it was just like there and ready. The person who's telling me the story tells me that the elderly woman, she was like, she refused to leave the car. She was like, I'm not going in there, I'm just gonna sleep in the car, you guys can go ahead and sleep in the house. They go in the house, they see, well, before they go in the house, they see like all the doors from outside of it was like, not the doors, the windows were like shut with wooden planks and all with like nailed down, and they didn't care. They were like really tired. It's like already like day 10 of the trip, you know, and there was a baby. That was the tea. So as soon as they enter, they see like abandoned carpets, pictures. The pictures, you can see it has people in them, but all the like, oh my god, I'm gonna cry, it's kind of scary. All the faces are blurred out somehow. Like, I don't know what happened. He doesn't know what happened. You can see there are like figures of people in the pictures, but all the faces are like either scratched off or just like somehow blurred. They were like abandoned carpets, some like abandoned furniture, but they didn't care, you know, they're really tired. And they tried to like light up a candle for some like warmth and light, but the candle wouldn't go on. Like as soon as it turns on, like it wouldn't go on. But again, they were like too tired. They were like, okay, screw it, let's just sleep in here. They just brought their like sleeping bags and like carry on, not mattress, but you know, those like yoga mat things that you put in the tent. Yeah, they brought those in and like try to sleep. When they all like closed their eyes, they could hear a clock. But there's no clock anywhere, but they could hear the clicking of a clock. Oh my god, I'm tearing up. I'm like legit tearing up. Yeah, and there are like other details. So they keep hearing the clock, weird. They're trying to turn on their flashlight, candle, like any type of fire, it's not turning on. They're trying to sleep, they hear dogs outside. For some reason they hear dogs outside, but like there's no dogs outside. Someone goes to check, there's no dogs outside. You can hear the dogs like barking at the house, yeah, not getting in the house. And then everyone was already like on edge. They saw those photos, those creepy ass like antique things, and then they heard the ticking clock. Said like not even like 1 hour, like a few minutes in, like everyone just like, okay, let's just all go to sleep, let's just lay down. And like they tried to focus, and then the babies just starts like crying, screaming out of nowhere. And as soon as that happened, everyone was like super scared, just wrapped up, and they're like, nope, like we're leaving. And like they said they like left the house immediately. They were like, no, we're leaving this. And they like went back into their cars and like drove off a little bit and like decided to sleep in the car. And the next morning, oh my god, I'm like getting goosebumps. The next morning, they survived. Thank God. The next morning, they say what was happening. They talked to the elderly person who stayed in the car, right? And apparently she didn't sleep because like she was too scared. And then she tells them that when they were in the house, they could see a figure outside of the house, like a person, like a figure of a human, just watching them through the window. But it's not a see-through window. It's like planked up and nailed down, right? But the elderly woman said she saw that figure just kind of like watch them from outside of the house. Oh my god. This like it still gets to me. I think there are like other details I'm missing, but they said there was like something up with the clocks, the lights, the fire, the pictures, like do not, yeah, and abandon. They drive away and find the village and go into the town, and they tell them, like they meet a local person, and like I think they were like a restaurant or something. They tell them what happened, and they said, oh, it's like it's not typical, but like that's where you don't go. Like that like little bundle of like woods that they got in, that which kind of like was the start of a forest but not really. They were like, yeah, don't go there. Like that's like the famous kind of like abandoned house that you don't go there because it's like kind of haunted, or like, you know, there's a lot of like spirit activity there. But everyone survived because you know, they didn't have any ill intent, and I guess like in a way ignorance was bliss, and they didn't know what they were doing and freaked out, you know. And also like Mongolians, we say like if a baby or like a cat or a dog doesn't feel comfortable in his place, especially if like a baby starts crying out of nowhere at night in a creepy house, we're not staying there. In general, like there's also belief in Mongolia, we say like until a baby is like 1 or 2 years old, they're still like half spirits, so they are very in tune with the other world, let's say. And yeah, whenever there's, you know, if the baby's uncomfortable, like everyone else should be uncomfortable. That's what we usually say. There's also like another superstition thing we do, that when we move into a new house, or when someone's like checking out a new place, we always like bring a cat or a dog to make them like go around the house and see if they're like comfortable in the house. And especially if a cat feels comfortable enough to like poop or pee, or if a dog like feels comfortable enough to do that in there, we say, okay, it's a safe house. Or we like make a cat run through it to kind of like ward off the unnecessary spirits. This is something some people do as well, yeah. So like, I don't know, whenever there's like something uncomfortable happening, we just kind of look out for babies and animals and see what their reactions are and what it is. Because I feel like as humans, we're becoming so like out of tune with nature and the world and the greater beyond, and you know, we're so like stuck in screens and tech, we're getting worse at listening. But I mean, even like our ancestors and like elderly people still like talk about these things even before technology was a thing, because sometimes humans, we're not so connected anymore, you know. Oh my god, not to sound kooky, but you know, I'm not here to confirm or deny anything. I grew up with these stories, so I'm not trying to play or mess with nothing that I don't know. I sound like a crazy person, but okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you find these stories interesting, and I still, as I said, I want to use this channel to like document what I know, document Mongolian culture that I don't see in like other forums and stuff. And I don't want, like, no offense to you, but I don't want like other foreigners writing about our experiences. So I'm gonna leave this here. If any of these like stories trigger something similar in your culture, or if you're also from Mongolia and if you heard anything similar, or if you know any like cool superstitions, please let me know in the comments, or feel free to DM me because I'm always fascinated by them. And happy spooky season and happy Halloween. Thanks for sticking with me. Bye. And last of all, I do not claim any bad or unnecessary energy. Peace. Bye.